wherever breaking news is happening.
Downtown Nashville, Murfreesboro, Clarksville.
Out here in Clarksville.
News 2 at 10 is on the scene, digging deep to get answers.
Exposing crime trends and the latest scams so you know how to stay safe. And News 2 Storm Tracker, always keeping you ahead of severe weather. Temperatures are going to begin to plummet tonight, tracking storms right down to your neighborhood. News 2 at 10, on air, online, and on the go.
Coverage you can count on.
This is a very fluid situation. The call came in at 11:15. Here is what we know right now. Metro Police have been responded to reports of shots fired at this church. We do know that 6 people have been wounded. They have been taken to the hospital. Our Josh Breslow is there right now. We have him on the phone. Josh, can you tell us what you are seeing?
Yeah, so we've actually been on both sides of the church at this point where this is going on. They have streets blocked all over this area. They are redirecting traffic. At this point, we have a lot of different lights and sirens going off because they are trying to keep people away from this church.
You live right across the street from where this happened. Once again, describe to me what you heard, what you saw as all this played out.
You heard the shots, and I was getting up because I thought somebody had crashed here at the corner. While I was getting up, a man and his wife run up to my house. Said they had been shot at in the church. I said, say what? In the church? I said, well, they said, will you come back over because my sister's still in there, woman hollered. He was so scared, he left his shoes inside the church. And when they come back out, went back over there, that's when I first seen the first deceased woman right here. Then I stood on the porch and looked in. It was a horrible mess.
I don't even want to get out the house. That's really crazy. Nobody's safe in church now.
This is the main sanctuary door at Burnett Chapel Church of Christ where police say the gunman entered. There are officers on scene there. There's crime scene tape. This is as close as our cameras can get, but you can kind of see inside of the church. This is where police say the gunman entered and started shooting indiscriminately. That is their wording. One woman was killed in the parking lot. She was leaving the church as the gunman was going in. One interesting point to make that police thought were interesting is that the SUV that the gunman was driving was left running. So police are thinking that this man, his idea was he's going to go into the church, start shooting and leave. He didn't expect to encounter that very brave usher who confronted him and fought him and eventually after an altercation was able to go out to his car, get his own gun, and then hold the gunman at gunpoint and wait until police got there.
I'm still just in total shock, you know. I can't put a reason to believe that, you know, this is where I grew up, you know. This is the church I grew up in. And to hear something like this is happening, I'm so in shock, I just can't put a reason to it.
I was just about to say, I imagine he would be in shock. Like, wouldn't know exactly how to handle this situation. Nobody out there does. Out there in the country, and you can say in the country, but even in the city, it's a church. This is a place of worship. You don't expect this to happen.
The police tell us Emmanuel Sampson shot and killed 39-year-old Melanie Smith of Smyrna. He left her for dead in the parking lot, then entered the church sanctuary and started shooting at random.
The endangered child alert that was upgraded to an Amber Alert after the teen was thought to be with the West Nashville murder suspect. And there has been a very significant development just happening right now. Let's go to Jerry Barler. He is on Highway 70 near the Dollar General out there, not too far away from where the store clerk was murdered around 9:30 last night. Jerry, we've seen a lot of police activity. What's happening?
Yeah, Neil, they had saturated this area already this morning. They started getting calls from people who had spotted these suspects along Old Charlotte and then down around Old Hickory Boulevard.
It would appear that her hands are either voluntarily behind her back or zip-tied behind her back at this point, at a 15 and the subject of an Amber Alert.
That's right, Neil. This is what we saw when we arrived here on the scene. Officers had just brought her across the street. When we were getting out of the car, we quickly grabbed our camera. I froze it because the video is kind of shaky as we were walking up through there, trying to get pictures before they put her in. But that is, in fact, her. It does appear, like you said, her hands are either cuffed or zip-tied or somehow restrained behind her back. They talked to her there just briefly before putting her in the car, maybe 30 seconds or so, put her in the back of that SUV.
We zoom in here. Let's take a closer look there.
I think the interesting.
We haven't seen anything out, but they are crowded around right now.
I think the interesting thing is that they opened the backpack, they pulled a couple items out, then they all stood up and it was almost like there was a discovery right there that we're going to wait to properly take care of the evidence bag before we move any further. This is the actual suspect now being brought over to the West Precinct, and there is the person that was being sought as he is in handcuffs, and he is being walked into the precinct.
They tell us both gave statements about the attempted robbery and the murder of the store clerk. Then around 3:15 this afternoon, we were able to catch video of Clark as he sat in the back of a police car dressed in an all-white protective suit before being taken to jail.
Now at 10, a takedown in Rutherford County. The two escaped inmates out of Georgia accused of killing 2 prison guards, now in handcuffs. Ricky DeBose and Donnie Rowe are in jail after being arrested just a few hours ago near I-24 in Rutherford County. Hello everyone, I'm Eric Egan, and we begin tonight with a breaking news alert. We've been following this manhunt closely, and the search is now over after a dramatic capture in Rutherford County.
Everybody out here is hunters or ex-military. We're all armed, and you know, if there would have been any shots fired, everybody would have responded. But obviously nobody needed to do that. The cops were here and did what they needed to do.
DeBose and Rowe are in the Rutherford County Jail. It's unclear at this point where they will be headed from here, whether they will face charges here in Tennessee or be extradited first back to Georgia. And we're told that I-24 eastbound, for anybody that's going to be coming up here, you're going to want to find another route. It will be closed for several hours as TBI and THP work to clear this scene. But what a night out here, Eric.
Before their dramatic arrest, the inmates spent nearly 3 terrifying hours inside a Shelbyville couple's home. And while there, the men allegedly tied up one of the homeowners. The couple says they're lucky that they're still alive. Our breaking news alert coverage continues now with Nick Calloway at the scene of the home. Nick.
Somehow those fugitives wound up here in Bedford County. I'm told they arrived in a stolen car. They ditched that car out here on the side of the road, and then they made their way up this driveway. At the top of that drive is a couple's home. I'm told they forced their way in at gunpoint. Now, just a little while ago, I talked with Sheriff Austin Swing, who walked me through the details of this harrowing story.
They were in their home from about 2:30 p.m. till about 5:30 p.m. They wrestled with the man and got control of him and threatened both of them's lives. They, according to the man and the lady, put guns to both of them's head and threatened to kill them if they resisted. They're extremely traumatized.
A desperate search, a community in tears. Stay with News 2 for continuing coverage on the disappearance of Elizabeth Thomas and the man accused of taking her. For breaking news and alerts, online, on air, and on your phone, News 2, local coverage you can count on.
A breaking news alert. The Amber Alert for Elizabeth Thomas is over. Tad Cummins is in custody. Elizabeth Thomas is safe. They were found by law enforcement officials in Northern California. We have team coverage for you tonight.
This community, they never stopped praying. They never lost hope. And today, again, it all worked out. Now, as mentioned, we have live team coverage here from downtown Columbia with Andy Cordan and Stephanie Langston. We're going to begin with Andy Cordan, who went to the home of Elizabeth Thomas and talked with Elizabeth's sister a mere few moments after she first got word that Elizabeth was found. Andy, tell us what that was like.
Eric, it was quite a moment. It was right around noon when we first heard the news. We were in the Culleoka community. We happened to drive up to the house. She was there, and she had only heard the news for just a few minutes. Here's her raw reaction.
How do you feel about that? Really happy.
I mean, it looks like you were almost crying. You were so happy, huh?
Yeah, I was crying about it.
How'd you get the news?
I just woke up and I had a lot of phone calls and messages about it, and I was just like happy they found her, and I'm waiting for her to come home so I can see her.
What's the first thing you're going to say or do? You're going to give her a big hug?
I'm going to give her a hug.
New details tonight on the heroic acts of Sonny Melton. The West Tennessee ER nurse was killed shielding his wife Heather from gunfire. Now again, in the last 90 minutes, Heather spoke with News 2's Brett Ramonda right outside Las Vegas. She describes Sonny as someone who could light up the room with his smile. She says the 29-year-old loved life and made hers so much better. And in an emotional interview, she relived those last moments when Sonny saved her life.
I saw Jason Aldean, who was performing at that time, run off the stage. And then people, mostly starting from the front of the crowd, just started running. And then I saw people falling. And I told Sonny that we should get down, and he said no, that we would get trampled. And so he just kind of wrapped his arms around me from behind, and we started running. And that's when I felt him get shot in the back. And we fell to the ground, and I was talking to him, and he was still breathing at that time. But then he stopped, and I started doing CPR on him. And there were still shots raining from everywhere, it felt like, for what seemed like an eternity. And I was screaming for somebody to help.
Please be careful if you can hear me. You are right near it. We just had confirmation that a tornado came down, touched down, and came back up around 43 and 243 just south of Mount Pleasant. Folks, this is just coming into me. This is just fresh. It just touched down around 5:15. This is becoming very serious. If you haven't taken your tornado precautions, you need to do it. This is some video from Mount Pleasant, we're saying. This is video from Mount Pleasant. Okay, this looks like a lowering cloud. Can't really see much else in it. I'm trying to see if we can see anything. Oh, look at that. Okay, look at the way that's spiraling.
This is a tornado warning, and this is covering the eastern now parts of Williamson County, the northern parts of Rutherford County, and the southern parts of Wilson County, even southern parts of Davidson County.
If I'm saying your area around here, you need to be taking your tornado precautions. That means going down to the lowest level, center of the room, a room with no windows, of course. So we're talking about maybe a bathroom, of course, maybe a closet. Surround yourself with as many outside walls. If you have a basement, best place to be. A storm shelter, best place to be.
Devastating it is, Neil. The rain has picked back up, which is not a good sign for all of these boat owners that have flooded out here to see if their boats were damaged. What we're looking at right now is the K dock. As you can see, the roof of the dock has just totally caved in. Several boats are actually under metal and tin. One boat owner says this is a disaster. He says nothing short. We understand there were 2 storm cells that moved through. The first one actually damaged the L dock. The second one demolished this K dock. Of course, we've been talking with several of the boat owners, and we're going to hear from one now whose boat actually went underwater.
It's all of it. It's all of it above. It's the roof's down. The boats are all on their sides. It's bad.
Some of the best video of the day of these tornado pictures, or what have been called possible tornadoes. These are all out of Shelbyville. We've had multiple sightings of these possible touchdowns. The rotation right there is unmistakable. You can see what looks like some different colors there, and that could be debris flying up, dirt being thrown up from the ground there as the rotation hits the ground. No injuries reported out of Shelbyville. However, there have been several damage reports. We have crews there looking for those. As soon as they give us more information, we'll bring that to you. There are also more than 2,000 customers in Shelbyville without power.
City set up a shelter at the multi-purpose building that's right next to the police station on Murfreesboro Road. Josh Breslow is over there this morning, too. He's monitoring the flooding. Josh, what are you seeing where you are?
Well, I can tell you, Nikki, out here right now, the rain is really coming down. It is a heavy rain at this point. And this is in Laverne, as I mentioned, on Old Nashville Highway. We've been out here all morning, and some of the roads are actually closed down. I can give you a view of why that is. Take a look over here. There are several businesses and homes in this area, and believe it or not, this is the roadway. It is covered in water. Looks more like a river or a creek at this point, and the water is only going to continue to rise as more of the rain comes down. I've talked to people who live out here, several of them telling me that their homes do actually have flooding as a result. The businesses, of course, not open just yet, so they're going to have to assess the damage.
What an effort. Offense, defense, goaltending, incredible stuff.
Yeah. All right, now he may not be able to hear us right now, but in more team coverage, we're going to go to News 2's Adam Snyder. He's live from the Walk of Fame Park. Adam, I'm shouting at you because I bet you can barely hear us down there.
I can hear you. I don't know if I have a voice left, guys. This is a blast right now. Let me show you this crowd a little bit. I'm going to have Alex pan this crowd. I hope you can hear me at this point. You know, a couple of games ago, this was supposed to be a record-breaking crowd. That was game 4. I can tell you there are certainly thousands of people right outside of Bridgestone Arena, and they have just been yelling ever since the third period started, and all of a sudden they get quiet. Can we go? Come on! Now, of course, we'll have much more from this party outside, and, of course, everything that happened inside in the game right here on News 2.
Tonight in Smashville, a Game 6 of epic proportions. Preds pride is strong throughout Nashville. tens of thousands of fans standing with their team with one goal in mind: force a Game 7.
This town will go insane.
Tonight it is all or nothing.
Justin Bieber versus Carrie Underwood. Enough said.
Win or go home.
Let's go, Braves! Let's go, Braves!
Get ready for an epic night, Smashville.
News 2's 1 hour special, Road to the Cup, starts now.
Corey Curtis is inside Bridgestone Arena. Adam Snyder outside the arena. Samantha Fisher is on the rooftop of the stage, and Nick Calloway is at Ascend Amphitheater.
We are everywhere. First, let's go to Corey Curtis and Kara Hammer live inside Bridgestone. All right, guys, let's focus. What do we got here?
We got to buckle down is what we got.
Yeah.
We got an arena that is starting to fill up. You've already seen people that are getting in their seats. You've got a concourse that is packed with fans. And Kara, I've got to tell you, in this town, there is still an overwhelming sense that despite everything that's happened in the last 48 to 72 hours, this team is going to win tonight.
We would like to experience that, the eerie feeling that when there's totality and how things change.
An event so rare, a countless number of people making plans so they don't miss a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A total solar eclipse.
The question is whether you plan for 50,000 or do we plan for 200,000? Well, we would rather shoot for the stars.
Cities big and small getting ready for August 21st, preparing for any scenario possible when it comes to traffic and safety.
That's probably the scariest thing about getting ready for this is what people are going to do actually when the eclipse, when totality begins.
How to make the most out of your epic eclipse experience. The News 2 Complete Viewer's Guide starts right now.
Days leading up to and especially the day of the eclipse, roads are just going to be jam-packed. This is something that law enforcement has been planning for months. Brett Martin takes a look into those plans to keep you safe on the road.
It's classic small town life. It's really nice. We know everybody. Miss Mary, what did you have?
In just under 2 weeks, people like Tori Cornish living in small western Kentucky towns may see thousands of new faces before the sun goes dark.
The most traffic we get is getting stuck behind a tractor occasionally, so it's going to be a lot.
With eclipse spectators racing to both the bluegrass and volunteer states, law enforcement officers are expecting heavy traffic along rural roads and interstates.
These are the approved sunglasses. You were asking where you can get them.
Yeah.
A lot of people on Facebook, Twitter have been asking me that. I mean, you can find them in Walmart, or you can get designer ones if you want those too. There are those, folks, don't you worry. But they have to be the ISO improved. You can look at, if you can go to online or go to one of the NOAA sites, you can definitely see it.
Good morning, everyone. Our epic eclipse coverage is just beginning today. This is a live look in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where we're just about 2.5 hours away from totality. Also, in Clarksville, where NASA experts will be studying today's eclipse and the more than 2 minutes of darkness that will take place there. And of course, here in Nashville, where thousands are going to be gathering at First Tennessee Park to watch the sky go dark in the middle of the day. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Mueller, joined by News 2's eclipse expert Janet Ivey from Janet's Planet.
We welcome you to our News 2 Epic Eclipse Watch Party. Our day-long commitment to covering this incredible event continues right now.
We have live team coverage throughout the day. Our crews are spread out literally all over Middle Tennessee and parts of Kentucky, ready to give you wall-to-wall coverage of today's epic eclipse.
Are we going to see Venus? Are we going to see Jupiter? There it is. Oh my goodness, let's take off that solar filter. Oh my goodness.
There it is.
Hold on, there we go. Oh,
there's totality. That is in Hopkinsville.
Are you looking up?
We just removed the filter. You can see the totality.
absolutely. You see the corona, and again, I am no Janet Ivey, but I believe that is the corona, and that's what NASA is studying. They have 60 teams all around the United States just to study that corona and that beam of light that is around the sun. How amazing. People are absolutely awe-inspired at this moment.
The great privileges of what we do in this business that we're privileged to do. We get to share these kind of events with the people of Middle Tennessee and get to cover history, a once-in-a-lifetime moment. I was telling you beforehand, I covered the very first space shuttle launch. This is another first. This is something that you'll never see again.
This is a News 2 breaking news alert.
I think that they're doing the bravest thing I've ever seen them do.
A daughter here fearing for her father, who's part of the SWAT team surrounding a bank in Columbia. now entering hour 8 in the standoff.
Interesting situation at this point. The crowds have been gathered, their eyes absolutely transfixed on the bank across the way for hours, and at times this road has appeared almost like a slow-moving parade with cars making their way by, trying to catch a glimpse of what was happening. These crowds have watched anxiously, cheering one by one as the hostages were let out, many of which feared, though, and very anxious for their friends and the family members involved in the SWAT team that are still over across the road, excited any time those glass doors opened up.
She came out with her hands up, and a bunch of police grabbed her and escorted her away from the bank.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, that's why everybody's standing out here. It looks like a movie.
Police have now identified a man with a machete accused of barricading himself inside a Columbia bank for hours with several hostages. News 2 was there as 53-year-old Douglas Roach was taken into custody.
He is going to have a busy day here in Nashville. Oh, the time is short. The afternoon is short for him. He has a lot going on. Here comes the president right now. You can see him, President Donald Trump, walking off Air Force One. He's coming down the steps. It's really interesting to be this close, and again, we'll see who else comes off of the plane.
They had a little roll call earlier, folks from about 30 different counties here. The support for this man is pretty wide in Tennessee.
Oh, it's incredible. You know, I just came in from the Hermitage. There are thousands of people out on the sidewalk, thousands of people, and I don't know where they're going to put them. I mean, it seems, I heard somebody say there's 25,000 people outside, and, you know, this arena only holds, what, 10,000, and it's already, yeah, so there's a lot of people who are going to be waiting outside hoping to get in.
Well, right now we're on the Woodland Street Bridge heading toward downtown. We've got a group of about 400 people. Let us step out of the way and kind of show you and paint the picture while we're trying to move and keep up with traffic. Right now, the lanes coming into downtown have been closed for the protesters. They have quite the staff here.
President Trump's historic visit to Nashville.
Everybody's watching. Everybody's tuned in.
News 2 gave you an all-access pass to everything presidential.
I'm just glad to be a part of history.
Thank you.
When big news happens, count on News 2 for local coverage you can count on.
And Murfreesboro was being touted by some as the biggest white nationalist demonstration since Charlottesville. Instead, the majority of protesters canceled. Andy Cordan spent the day in Murfreesboro, and he begins our team coverage by showing us what happened when those protesters didn't show.
You can see that Murfreesboro police are poised and ready. They have a phalanx of officers separating what was supposed to be two very diverse crowds, and what we ended up having was supposedly going to be the biggest white nationalist movement since Charlottesville. It ended up seeing more media members here to cover it, and it really fizzled. I can't hear you.
Why are you fighting this all by yourself?
Am I fighting this all by myself? I ain't fighting it all by myself. People like me are everywhere, baby. Don't ever think they ain't.
You're the only guy here taking on 100 people across this road.
Because I ain't scared. I believe in what I believe in. Who do you guys represent?
Alerta! Alerta! Antifascista!
Breaking news alert, the alleged rape suspect is now in police custody.
News 2 crime trackers are on the scene.
I saw the suspect and he took off. I called 911 immediately.
News 2 crime trackers.
And since we've been out here, police have said thank you. You've helped a lot.
Local coverage you can count on.
Procession for Officer Eric Muma is now arriving at Cornerstone Church in Madison for this morning's memorial service. You are looking at a live picture from outside the church. That procession left Spring Hill Funeral Home on Gallatin Pike right at 7 a.m. This is video from that earlier this morning. Officer Mumau died trying to save another life on Thursday. Our coverage of today's memorial service continues throughout the morning on News 2 at 11. We will stream the service in its entirety online at WKRN.com.
1 in 5 children experience hunger in Tennessee every day. It's a heartbreaking reality. The struggles families face and what's being done to end hunger at home. All day in every newscast, Thursday on News 2.
Welcome to Nashville.
Just look at all the cranes all over town.
All over town, we're seeing historic growth, the kind that so many cities envy.
We have probably 200,000 people coming to Davidson County in the next 25 years, about 1 million to Middle Tennessee.
And an ever-changing skyline.
The skyline will change over time, before and after.
With all that growth comes all those growing pains.
I found the house I like. Let's go see it. And then it was gone.
And with the ever-changing neighborhoods,
all of these houses that were here 8 months ago are gone.
Comes the concerns.
People like me that are low income and really don't have money, we're being left out.
And then, of course, there's the traffic.
Well, they say Nashville's the new LA, so and LA traffic's horrendous.
Tonight, we take on the good.
It's no longer a Nashville camp. We can do whatever we want.
The bad.
I feel like I don't even belong in this neighborhood anymore.
And the ugly.
Traffic here? Gonna be a disaster.
Find out how local leaders plan to deal with it all.
This is a News 2 Town Hall meeting, Nashville 2017. Here's Bob Mueller.
And when you talk about growth, you have to talk about the opportunities for mass transit. We've talked about this. Mayor Barry, in motion, $6 billion plan over 25 years. It's a framework. Talk a little bit about what would happen if this gets implemented the way you hope it does, and what it would provide.
Sure. So you're going to have light rail. You're going to have improved bus lines. We're going to be able to run the Music City Star more, connect to Clarksville, relieve some congestion on 24 with bus on shoulder. I mean, there's a whole soup to nuts approach there.
Mayor, have we waited too long? Should it have happened in 1999 when you were mayor?
Well, we began then, actually. If you remember where we were in 1999, one half of all of the buses in the city of Nashville were eligible for antique license plates. That's where we were.
I love that story.
So the reality is we've moved pretty far. Across that river is a commuter rail line, the last such commuter rail line in the country to be added. We began to build the foundation, and I think now there is a consensus, as Mayor Barry and I think the commissioner will attest to, as the whole panel will attest to, a consensus about the importance of
this has
forward.
to be regional, doesn't it? It can't just be Nashville.
Nashville is growing, with 30,000 new people per year calling Middle Tennessee home. Growing pains have spilled into the streets. Traffic trouble driving people to vent to a stranger with a sign. How would you describe it?
Nobody in the city knows how to drive.
Say it again.
Nobody in the city knows how to drive.
How would you describe it? Unbelievable.
Where can I start?
But change is coming. Long-term change in a long-term plan, dubbed Middle Tennessee Connected, put in place by the Nashville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO.
We're the place that brings together city and county mayors and planners to help establish a process to evaluate, prioritize, and allocate federal dollars for transportation investments.
The population hike causing a spike in car crashes. Nashville MPO compiled all wrecks in the region over a 5-year period. Every dot seen here, a collision reported in Middle Tennessee. Gridlock, now just another part of Tennessee life.
There's not enough road for the cars. You need more. It's a capacity problem.
It's no secret, in Nashville and across Middle Tennessee, roads are more congested than ever before. And should nothing change, your work commute is expected to more than double in the coming decades.
We've gotten to a point where, particularly in Middle Tennessee, the pain is starting to become significant, and I think it's affecting quality of life.
Middle Tennessee Connected hopes to lower congestion by offering more public transit, more commuter rail systems, an emphasis on biking and walking paths, and upgrading Nashville's aging interstate infrastructure. A 25-year plan with an estimated $8.6 billion price tag.
Interstates that loop downtown were built at a time when the population and downtown as a whole was a completely different animal.
But nearly $9 billion won't cover all. A number of plans highlighted in gray not making the cut.
We did not have the funding available over the next 25 years to invest in those at this point.
Most of the federal and state dollars come from an aging gas tax. A raise in transportation funds likely meaning higher taxes for Tennesseans.
I already think our taxes here are high, so I don't know.
But it might be the only way for a state and region quickly running out of roads and options.
In Tennessee, we're the second highest rate of opioid prescribing in the U.S.
Opioid abuse now an epidemic in the state.
We are suffering from literally an epidemic plague.
Children growing up without parents.
You think about what you're doing to your kid every day.
And overdose deaths being reported at alarming rates.
We have addicts that are being pharmacists.
They're mixing these drugs.
But as thousands struggle with addiction,
if I came into your house and you had them in your medicine cabinet, I left with them.
A new task force to help fight the problem.
I thought it was a high enough priority to establish a task force to solely concentrate on solutions.
So tonight we dig deeper into how we got here.
These powerful drugs, they grab a hold of folks and they don't let go.
And how we can get out.
This is a News 2 town hall meeting. Tennessee's opioid crisis.
About 7 years ago, doctors really started noticing a problem. In 2015, it was noted that there are more opioid prescriptions in Tennessee than people. That's second per capita in the entire United States. How did we get here today?
That is an excellent question, and that's a question that we've been talking about in the department, across the state and across the country. Basically, you had very well-meaning doctors that were prescribing pain pills for people that needed them. Then you had the pain index that hospitals had to address, as well as doctors themselves, that had you trying to get people's pain down lower. So it's sort of like a perfect storm.
It's a Monday night. It's cold.
The pills are so expensive to get.
It's dark.
They break into houses, they steal guns.
And Cheatham County drug officers are on another stakeout. Blue lights.
First approach vehicle, I could smell burnt marijuana and raw marijuana.
Half-truths.
When I asked him if him or anyone else had smoked marijuana in the vehicle tonight, he stated he did not, but his buddy did.
Indicators of drug use.
This is a cigarette cellophane with a little bit of marijuana bud in it.
They found some pot.
I know they were going to find it.
This is what it looks like on the front line of the war on opioids.
He's going to be charged with Schedule 6 marijuana.
Where every night is a roll of the investigative dice.
904 and 913 in a row.
Where every traffic stop.
Hey, we're set up. You're in position.
Every suspicious encounter in a dark parking lot.
We put pills, heroin, marijuana.
Every search of the center console of a vehicle that has no registration.
You may see this kid 5-10 years from now.
Could lead to the next major drug transaction.
And he's strung out on heroin.
Cheatham County drug agents have been successful in the battle.
You got a good view?
They show me evidence from recent opioid operations where they were able to take pills, heroin, and the tools of the trade.
These drug addicts, they get so desperate to give money to support their habits, they're breaking into people's houses.
3 Central to 922 East.
Lieutenant Shannon Heflin leads the county's drug unit.
They have an addiction where they're doing 3 or 4 pills a day, so you're looking at several $100 a day habit. They can't hold down a job, so where are they going to get the income to afford their habit? First place they're going to go to get money is they're going to break into a home. You know, they're going to steal electronics, they're going to steal jewelry.
This 22-year veteran says just about every crime in this county can be traced back to pain pills and the addiction they fuel.
Nowadays, I would think it's safe to say that probably 99.9% of it's drug-related.
The empty cigarette cellophanes, empty blunt wrappers.
Veteran drug agents John Mobley.
Goes hand in hand, gateway drug.
And Dale Smith spend hour after hour, mile after mile, looking for opioids.
If it's marijuana, pills, heroin, we look for the same thing. You know, the car pulling up to a car, the hand-to-hand transaction.
These grizzled drug agents live in a world where junkies, dealers, and pill poppers will do anything to anyone to get high, to get paid.
It's that draw, it's so addictive.
On this night, drug agents find no pills, no heroin. They make no arrests. But tomorrow will bring another night, another parking lot, another vehicle stop.
Drugs is the root of a lot of the other crimes that we're seeing.
And when 99% of your crime centers around this, it's only a matter of time.
Tonight, we open up a difficult discussion: teenagers and violence. It's a troubling trend with deadly consequences.
He took my baby from me.
You see it in the hallways of schools, in the streets of neighborhoods.
I heard about maybe 10 rounds, you know, like boom, 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 boom.
And in the posts on social media.
All it takes is one screenshot. All it takes is one share.
From carjackings and robberies.
It's a scary sign when the kids move from the nonviolent crimes of opportunity to a violent offense.
And teens, killing teens, even young men returning to a life of gangs.
Once I got locked up, I became a part of the Gangster Disciples.
So now it's time to take up the tough questions. Why are we seeing more of this?
It's just wrong. The violence needs to stop.
Who's responsible?
Parents need to talk to their kids, get them educated.
And how do we get our teens on the right track?
I want to see a reduction in kids killing kids.
And I want to thank everyone for taking part in the discussion of this really important issue. And I want to start with kind of a hard question. I spoke with Mayor Berry this week, and I asked her #1 priority, and she said it was figuring out a way to reduce kids killing kids. As we begin this tonight, homicides involving teenagers are up in Nashville. So for each of you, how do we move forward to stop kids from killing kids? Lionel?
Thank you for having us on, Bob. First of all, to really stop the violence that we're seeing, we have to remove the weapons out of the kids' hands, and we have to give them other options. We have to take away some of the distractions that are preventing them from going down a positive path. But we also have to give them the support to be kids, and we have to give them the room to make mistakes and not feel like those mistakes box them into a certain pathway or just a small scope that they could go into adulthood with.
Captain.
One year ago, the Blue Angels graced the skies of Nashville. The Navy's elite flight team building anticipation as they prepared for the Great Tennessee Air Show.
They only do so many shows a year, and we're pretty lucky to get them.
But in a split second, everything changed.
Hello, 911. We had a plane crash. One of the Blue Angels crashed. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have it. We're getting help on the way. Thank you. Plane crash right by Fairway Meadows. Yes, I'm over here at Walmart in Smyrna, and one of the jets just came over, and we had one down towards the ground. Yes, we have help on the way to him. Thank you.
At age 32, Marine Captain Jeff Coos, husband and father of 2, was gone.
And it was a magnificent flight, and then it turned into a horrible day.
In the next half hour, the untold stories of how lives intersected that day.
Literally, the impact affects you, and just, I heard it, I saw it.
From those who worked.
Everyone knew the job we had to do, and we did it.
To those who witnessed.
Your stomach drops, your heart sinks.
And those who prayed in the middle of a tragedy.
I just think on that day I was supposed to be there and I was supposed to respond.
The moment that brought the city of Smyrna together.
You know, and over the town of Smyrna, over the airport, over that entire community.
And a year later, the launch of a memorial to the lasting memory of Captain Coos.
Been a big Blue Angels fan most of my life. I've watched them ever since I can remember.
He's just getting off work June 2nd. It's nearly 3 o'clock, and he comes here, across from the airport, to watch the Blues practice. With his cell phone recording, what Burns captures next will shock him and everyone who sees it.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
I saw him coming down real low. I watched it numerous times. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I watched it, just trying to analyze, what exactly happened. I actually found part of the manual for the Blue Angels maneuvers, trying to figure out, what happened. Did he not go too, high enough?